What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Six-Man Show. Today is October 31st, 2024. We're still here. It's Halloween. We're here recording again. If you're listening to this, you know why. Emergency pod. Our second emergency pod this week, but this one sucks so much more. I am here, as always, Jonathan Osborne, with my producer, co-host, friend, therapist at this moment in time, confidant, Kevin Tucker. Kevin, what the hell, man?
Yeah. This sucks. Like on so many different levels, like especially I think part of the reason why it sucks is, like you said, we just got done with one of the most fun nights in our history of a franchise, of being fans of whatever. And then we turn around, what is it? 72 hours later. And we're dealing with this. It sucks. So just again, you probably already know, but just to fill you in, I almost said Paolo Banchero out for 4 to 6 weeks, torn oblique. We heard
not
earlier,
out for 4 to 6 weeks.
Sorry,
reevaluated
you're right.
in 4 to 6
You're
weeks.
right. At least 4 to 6 weeks, he'll be out. We heard earlier today that he was going to be questionable for the game in Cleveland,
With what they originally called an abdominal strain.
Right. So we're like, that's not great, but at no point I don't think anybody expected anything like this, So it sucks. Especially sucks because tomorrow, or ESPN Cavs rematch. Who knows what version of Franz we'll have? It just looks so dim. At least for Friday night, it looks super dim. But yeah, Jonathan, I'm pretty crushed, and I obviously know all Magic fans are feeling that same way.
Yeah, I'm trying to go back to the earlier reporting from Shams earlier today. What time was that? 4:34 p.m. Eastern time. He reported that Paolo had a right abdominal strain and is listed as questionable. He will be reevaluated, the report said. So I'm assuming that meant that, obviously they were traveling to Cleveland, and Paolo must have had some type of imaging in Cleveland today that confirmed the torn oblique. So it doesn't sound like it's a full tear. It must be some type of partial tear. If right now it doesn't sound like there's plans to have surgery, and the fact that he's going to be reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks and his return will be dependent upon how he responds to treatment. That doesn't sound like something that is going to be like a surgery. Like it's a relatively small tear. They're probably going to do physical therapy and all types of manual treatments to just help him be as comfortable as possible, maintain mobility, all that kind of good stuff while he's rehabbing from the injury. But yeah, for all of the reasons that you just listed, this just sucks, right? Like, we came into the season with such great expectations, although last night's game left a bad taste in your mouth. The big picture was very overall optimistic, and it still is. Like, this by no means is the depth certificate of this season or anything like that, but it just takes the wind out of the sails for what was a really exciting start to the season. I still think, the Magic are going to be able to find ways to win games. They're not going to win as many games as they would, obviously, with Paolo Banchero. But hopes of, top 3-4 seed, those just got a lot more complicated with something like this. We're looking at Paolo, at least missing somewhere in the ballpark of 15 games, and that's if he comes back around that 4 to 6 week mark. And we know how the Magic handle injuries. Reevaluation means nothing. It means, hey, we're going to check in and update the media in 6 weeks.
And that's what I was going to say. When's the last time you heard a window from the Magic and it ended up being on the shorter end of that window? When you hear 4 to 6 weeks, I hear 6 weeks. That's what I hear. And if it's 6 weeks, it's not just all those games you mentioned. And obviously this is a smaller piece of that puzzle, but that means if it's 6 weeks, he misses every NBA Cup game. So Magic, again, it's not impossible. And again, this is not the big picture. Like, we don't ultimately, the NBA Cup is cool, and I think it'd be fun for the Magic to do well in it. It's not the ultimate prize, obviously, but if he's out for all 4 group games of the NBA Cup, I mean, more than likely, if you're looking at that group, you're probably not making it out of it. So there's that. The West Coast trip to Phoenix and both LA games, he's out for those. I mean, obviously, this weekend is huge with Cleveland, Dallas, OKC out for all those. So we're talking like December 12th, I think is what I calculated is at 6 weeks from today. So, yeah, it's really hard to believe.
You were already looking at a very complicated 4 or 5 game stretch here. I think you're almost certainly like looking at being in the midst of a 4-game losing streak right now, with Cleveland, the way that they're playing at Dallas, at Oklahoma City, especially like the Dallas OKC games being back to back.
Yeah.
And then, you end the road trip. Everybody's going to be tired. We've had Tristan go down to illness. We've had Franz go down to illness. In the past, when illnesses like this has spread around the team, we have not been so lucky for it to stop with 2 guys. Usually it just runs rampant throughout the roster until sort of everybody's been, hit with it. Maybe the basketball gods will, throw a little, light in our direction, and in the, due to this happening with Paolo, it'd be pretty crappy for this to happen and then just the whole team get sick anyways, because then you're looking at 5 or 6 game losing streak here. And yeah, like I didn't think the play-in was going to be a possibility, but if Paolo is reevaluated in 4 to 6 weeks, like yeah, if he's not like good to go in 4 to 6 weeks, if he's reevaluated and is going to miss maybe a few more weeks, and now we're not seeing Paolo into like the new year, there's a good chance that you're going to be fighting to stay out of the play-in come the end of the season. Now we talk about next man up mentality. It has to be all the way across the board, like all hands on deck. Everybody needs to be like playing out of their minds if this team is going to be able to stay afloat without Paolo Banchero for these next 6 weeks.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. It does need to be all hands on deck, but there's one hand that has to really be driving the ship right now.
Yeah.
Like we have, and it sucks because he's been sick, but we have to have good Franz. Like it's the only way we're going to stay afloat through this stretch, because we watched that second half last night, Jonathan, when Paolo wasn't hitting shots. The rest of the offense just was a disaster, right? Without Franz, I should say. We saw last night, fourth quarter, without Franz, with Paolo struggling. We know what this offense looks like without that. And so, Franz, I'm quite literally praying to the heavens that he's healthy tomorrow, Friday, so that we can at least be competitive, because I'm concerned if Franz isn't healthy and ready to go, that could be a really ugly game, because Cleveland is right now the hottest team in basketball. And then that carries over to this whole stretch. We just need Franz has to take the lead on this. Obviously, he needs to be healthy. It's going to be a long stretch, but I think Franz is capable of it. He's got to be healthy, but he's definitely capable. It's just, a lot of pressure is going to be on his shoulders. I know we got to spread the wealth, and everybody's got to step up, but ultimately, it's really going to be on Franz's shoulders to me.
The other thing that struck me as soon as this happened is or as soon as it was announced, because now thinking back to it, it kind of makes sense that if he was laboring at all or was uncomfortable, in that fourth quarter while he was settling for threes, and it seems like maybe once the game ended and his body had a chance to cool off, we know that he was seen with the wrap on that side after the game, going through the post game availability. But it would make sense that, what happened last night, sort of in that fourth quarter. But the other thing was like, why is this happening again? Like last year we had relatively good injury luck, apart from the Wendell and Markelle injuries at the beginning of the year. Luckily we had guys, like Anthony Black, like Mo Wagner, like Gogo Batadze that stepped up, in the absence of those guys. This is a much larger hole to fill. It's a lot more production to fill with Paolo being out. But when we just think of everything that's happened over the course of the last few years, with Jalen's early injury struggles to start his career, and Markelle just missing time season after season, and Wendell missing time season after season. Before that, obviously Jonathan Isaac, the year that everything really fell apart when it was Aaron Gordon, and then it was Vooch, and it was Evan Fournier, while J.I. was also out. Last year, like we all talked about, and this is by no means, I'm not criticizing Arnie Kander in any type of way. This is, things like this just happen. but we were all like, man, Arnie Cantor, look what he's done with this team. Look how healthy everybody's been. Look what he's done for Jalen Suggs and his mindset. And Arnie still deserves all of the credit in the world for all of that stuff, right? Like Jonathan Isaac being able to play, 60 plus games last year, including the playoffs. Pretty much a miracle that was able to happen and is unprecedented in its own right. But last year we just had so much relative injury luck that you kind of were like, okay, maybe we're not that team anymore that is always just going to have sort of lingering injuries. And I know at the end of the day, this, for the most part, you can just chalk it up to bad luck, but it does suck that, like, once again, we're having to deal with a significant injury to one of our, to our best player and our most important player. And all of the, hopes and expectations that we had for this season, although they're not completely gone, but they're like realistically and reasonably diminished, which really, really sucks for all the excitement that we had going into this season. And now it's like the other, 14 guys that are on the main roster right now have one hell of a storm to weather over the course of the next 6+ weeks.
Right. And it's tough because, last season, it's funny, actually, tonight I was actually talking with Maddie World Peace when this news broke. And so we both basically had a painful venting session together. But one of the things we talked about was last year, that road trip out west when the Magic were decimated with injuries, the Sacramento game where already had a bunch of injuries. Franz goes down, Paolo goes down for part of that game. Ends up being one of the wildest games in Magic history. You obviously lose that game, unfortunately, but the team fought really hard, showed a lot of effort. They didn't care who was on the floor for either team. They didn't care who they were coming against or who, was wearing Magic jersey. And then obviously 2 nights later, Magic in Denver, 8 guys beat the defending champions, right? So if the silver lining is that this team is going to, they're going to give their all, right? Like, there's no doubt about that.
That was Next 2 games, though.
What?
That was 2 games.
I know. You can starting with the silver. I'm starting with the silver lining, and then I'm going to crush everyone's souls after that. The silver lining is they're going to give it their all, and I believe, like you said, they're going to find ways to win some games. The hard part is last year it wasn't Paolo who was missing. It was Paolo who was kind of carrying us through those injuries. And honestly, that's the thing with Paolo. Paolo, he's never had an injury like this. Like, he played every game for Duke. He played 72 games his rookie season and 80 games last year. He's missed 12 games in 3 seasons of basketball, if you include Duke and the 2 here in Orlando.
And he even mentioned, I think it was the rookie year with the ankle where he missed a stretch. He said he'd never had an injury like that. So this is by far the most significant injury he's ever had.
So there's 2 sides of this, even with just that. That idea is obviously how does it impact the Orlando Magic as a basketball team? What does that do for freaking Paolo? Like, I can't imagine, being thrown this when you've never dealt with anything like this before. Like, it's going to be mentally challenging. It's going to be physically difficult. And he's going to have to work through like the whole rehab process, something he's never had to do before, for any kind of injury. And so all these things adding together, it's a lot. And then ultimately, I just feel horrible for him. Like, he's off to this historic start. One of the best starts, in Magic history, one of the best starts for a 21-year-old. And I'm crushed for him because he's playing great ball. And so to deal with this, especially right away, it's just hard. It's hard to wrap my mind around. It's just like you said, it's brutal. It's crushing.
Before we started recording here, you noticed that when I got on here, I had my hood up, and I told you, like, I'm in like Sith mode right now is how I feel. I'm about to put some other people into Sith mode. Unfortunately, like Anakin turned from the light side to the dark in Revenge of the Sith. Right. And I feel that somebody has turned from the light side to the dark. Fazan tweeted a clip a few minutes ago of a play that we can reasonably speculate where the injury occurred. And do you know who Paolo made contact with for this injury? We're speculating. Like, if you watch the play, Paolo comes up holding that area and he's grimacing. Nikola Vucevic.
No.
I'm not blaming Nikola Vucevic. I'm not saying that. Obviously,
so.
Nothing was done purposefully, but in the right around like the 3:15 mark of the second quarter, Paolo drives through the lane, makes contact with Vucevic at the rim, falls to the ground, takes a second to get up, and when he stands up, he gets up slowly, and he's grabbing at that area, and he's grimacing as he's going towards, the other end of the floor. So
that's it.
That's really, really unfortunate. That's just, hey, we always, Kevin turned the light off. Oh,
yep. No. Sith mode's activated.
We always say this in jest, but now I'm saying it really sarcastically, thanks a lot, Chicago, for what you did to Paolo Banchero. To bring this back, we're now 16 minutes here into this, just wallowing in our own, pity here. On the flip side, this team is very deep, right? We've talked about that. That is a real thing. I don't know that we have really been able to totally show that depth the way that we did early in the last year. It felt like from day one last season, the bench was just clicking and was one of the best bench units in the league. Our bench unit has shown flashes of that. Now they haven't really been whole. Jonathan Isaac, missed a few games there. Cole Anthony, which I guess we can talk about in a minute here as well. Cole Anthony's now not seemingly in the lineup. Now it looks like Jett Howard's going to be in the lineup. So it's going to take time for them to figure things out. But before Franz got sick, Franz has been absolutely balling this year. Averaging career highs across the board. It was 23, 24 points per game, shooting the ball really well from behind the arc. So if there is another silver lining, you already, sort of pointed one out, but I do believe Franz can be good enough to carry this team while Paolo is being out. Yeah. And we've talked at different points throughout the offseason of, hey, if the Magic are competitive and Franz is playing really well, averaging 20 plus points per game, it's not outside of the realm of possibilities that the Magic could have 2 All-Stars and Franz Wagner could make his first All-Star team. If Franz is able to keep the Magic above water while Paolo is out and Franz is scoring, 24, 25 points per game, which he is going to need to do, by the way. Yeah. We cannot give any excuses. Franz, you got the bag, my brother. You are going to be paid as a max guy. You gotta lift the team up and put them on your shoulders. Mm-hmm. And it's time to grab your hard hat, your lunch pail, and go to freaking work over the course of the next 6 weeks here. Franz is basically going to have to put up, maybe not in terms of the rebounds and assists, but Franz is going to have to put up Paolo Banchero numbers on offense to carry the load. And if there is another silver lining, this is a real wake-up call for everybody offensively. We cannot sit around and just watch Paolo, get to the rim and get to the free throw line and knock down ridiculous shots. We are actually going to have to play the way and execute the way that we are supposed to on a play-by-play basis, on a night-to-night in and out, night in and night out basis. So if there is some silver linings to that, some maybe some good things that can come from this, is that everybody can take their heads out of their rears, on that side of the floor and play the way that they're supposed to for 48 minutes. And because you're probably not going to be scoring the ball as much as we have been, you're going to have to tighten up defensively as well. So I just hope that everybody locks in over the course of the next 6 weeks and can keep this team afloat so that when Paolo comes back, you're still squarely in the playoff race. And I mean the upper echelon of the East in the playoff race, not hanging on to the play-in.
Right. There's 2 big questions I kind of want us to talk through. And again, we're reacting to this so fast. This just happened. But the first question is this: what do you think? I'll throw my ideas out there too. What do we think this does for the starting unit and for the rotations? Obviously, we'll get an answer very quickly with the game against Cleveland just coming up here in a few hours. We'll start with that, and then I'll ask my second question later. Have you thought about this yet? Who starts? Let's start with that. Who starts instead of Paolo? How does that change?
I think you start Jonathan Isaac.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel like you have to really lean into the defensive identity at this point. J.I. gives you some of that size. I don't know. I don't think you start 2 super bigs. I don't think you start Goga next to Wendell or, Mo next to Wendell. I think it has to be J.I. because, he's going to give you a little bit more spacing then Goga and Mo, it's going to take that from like a pretty solid defensive lineup to a fantastic defensive lineup. Jalen, Kenny, Franz, J.I., Wendell. It's going to be really competitive. It's going to be hard to score on that unit. And then what do you do in that second unit? You probably do go Goga and Mo in that second unit. I just don't think the other option, I don't think Corey Joseph is the answer there. I don't think, putting Cole back into the second unit works, because then you're looking at a second unit of AB, Jet, Cole, Mo, and Goga. It's going to be really rough defensively, but I also don't think that Tristan is really ready to be in that role either. Like, I don't know. Or AB, Cole, Gary, Jet, Mo. Like, that feels like it's too small of a bench unit. So I think it's probably to start JI, and then Goga plays alongside Mo Wagner in the second unit, and Mo is essentially like your 4, Goga's the 5. But, this, like you said, this just happened. We jumped on here, got to talking. That's earliest, but, we're going to know pretty soon.
Yeah, here's where I am with that. In a vacuum, I would agree with you with JI, but Jonathan Isaac has played 2 games, and the most minutes he's played is 13 minutes in those 2 games this season, right? Can he be instantly thrust in the starting lineup and played 20, 25 minutes? That would surprise me.
Oh, that's totally fair.
That would surprise me. The other part of it is, I think specifically for Friday, because they are coming up against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, I think there's a chance that it is Goga. And it's Goga, Wendell, Franz. Just strictly speaking about Friday, both because of the opponent and because I don't know if Jonathan Isaac can play 20 minutes yet. I mean, he hasn't proved that. So obviously I in my mind envision them ramping him up to be able to do that. So that maybe starting next week he's starting. But what a mess. The bench unit, I don't know. It feels like an opportunity for Tristan to make his first impact in the NBA. I think he's going to get a chance. I don't know how many chances or how long those chances will be, but I think we'll start to see Tristan over these weeks. And then obviously we got to see what he does with it. So I don't know, man. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I could definitely see Jamal Mosley approaching it as like, dependent on the matchup. Like Steve Clifford used to try, some things like that. I think ultimately the way that it works is like your lineup is just your lineup, and you want to get guys accustomed to those playing groups and those rotations, knowing when they're going in, knowing when they're coming out, knowing who they're playing with, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't hate if it was a playoff series, obviously, that would probably be the way to go. But it's going to be interesting. We're going to get answers pretty quickly. We have a watch party, coming up on Friday here tomorrow. We'll have this up, before midnight probably.
Yeah.
I would hope. I'm still going to be at Rivals on Wall Street, 7:00. Hope people, still come out and have a good time, and we want that to be a competitive game. I still like this. Really, really does suck, but like as a little bit of the like, oh, woe is me, woe is us kind of energy is waning from me. I do think like if Franz can elevate in the way that we believe he can, the Magic can be 85% as good as, just in terms of like winning games. Like the ceiling with Paolo and everybody healthy is immense. I think we can legitimately be one of the best teams in the league when everybody's healthy. But, just in terms of like, you don't have to be the best team in the league to go out and win games. Like you just got to be good enough that night. And I think Franz can, give us a chance every night to go out and win these games still.
I've got one more question. It's kind of my part 2 of earlier. And it was actually brought up by Matty World Peace. Not that he thought we would do this, but he's like, I can see this being a question. 4 to 6 weeks. If it's 4 to 6 weeks, that's not that long. If they are getting into this and realize it's going to be longer, we're talking 8, 10, 12 weeks. Do they?
Why?
Hold on.
Why are we even saying that? Like, I know it's a possibility.
Hold on. Let me get to my question. Let me get to my question. Do they look at a trade? Like, are we in that? Are the Orlando Magic, and this is like a big picture philosophical question, are the Orlando Magic to the point now where they're like, we need to be a competitive playoff team So much so that we need to make a trade to backfill this until he gets back, right? Which is a big, big picture. Not a one we're going to answer here tonight, but I know there are going to be some people that wonder that. Like maybe even if it is 4 to 6 weeks, do the Magic make a trade? To me, it's too short of a window to do that. If they think it's going to be longer, I think the Magic might even consider it. I don't know for sure though.
Yeah, I just come back to, like this season isn't entirely about this season.
Right.
And, if it's a very short-sighted kind of deal, I really don't think so. If we were closer to being contenders and we thought we had a real chance, but felt like we needed home court advantage to be able to do that, then maybe, or if we had some type of like impending big free agent that we felt like, like who knows what is happening in Milwaukee. They've had a really rough start, which, hey, who could have saw that coming? Am I right? But now there's already rumors of like Giannis potentially forcing his way out at some point. If we were dealing with a situation like that, I could understand that. But for me, that just feels, a little bit short-sighted. Now, obviously, depending on, what you're giving up, what you're getting back. If it's a move that they would have made regardless of this injury, then sure. But if you're making it in light of the injury, I think that's, it's very uncharacteristic of this front office, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. And again, for me, just the duration is too short. If it was a longer injury, I think maybe, but 4 to 6 weeks, obviously, who knows how long it'll be. But if it's 4 to 6 weeks, I'm not thinking about it really.
Yeah. All right. I think I've said all that I can say at this point about that. We might as well talk about this. It came out today. We had the conversation on the pod that came out on Thursday about what's going on with Cole. Is he not feeling well? Got a DNP on Wednesday against Chicago. We saw Jet Howard get some minutes for the second game in a row. And then Mason Williams and Jason Beatty both reported Thursday morning that they talked to Cole Anthony in the locker room after the game. And he said that Jamal Mosley had a conversation with him that, for right now, he's going to be out of the rotation. And Cole said he understands because he's been playing like sugar, honey, iced tea, if you can put that acronym together there. Like, I'm not going to say that, but he has not been playing great. We've mentioned that, and he's basically saying like, I hope I get another opportunity sometime soon. So like for now, that's the path that they're moving forward, and you can't really blame Jamal Mosley, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this wouldn't be beating a dead horse, but I mean, we have talked about it several times, and we felt like the writing was on the wall, but I don't think we felt like it was here this fast, right? Like we thought, his leash was getting shorter and shorter and shorter. But I mean, again, we just recorded yesterday. Neither of us thought that he was going to be, or I'm saying before Wednesday, and we recorded Monday or whatever. Neither of us thought that Wednesday was going to be the night that he was not going to.
Yeah, we said that. We're like, it feels a little bit early to make that decision, but like, hey, if we're in the business of keeping guys accountable, and we said like, if they are making this decision, it's because you've got the last, calendar year of up and down performances from Cole, and if it really is like the on-court issues or off-court issues that are affecting him and he just can't focus for whatever reason, like that just really blows. Like I don't think it's anything it has to do with him not working hard or anything like that. So it's interesting that he's been struggling the way that he has for as long as he has now, and hope he can bounce back. But yeah, I'm excited to see what Jet has. We did talk that when he's come into the game in regular minutes, he seems a little bit timid, sort of afraid to make mistakes. He's got to get over that, especially now. We need Jet Howard. We need Jet Howard to be, basically like double digits every night.
Yeah.
Like that, the production that we are accustomed to getting from Cole, like that 12 to 15 points a game, we 100% need that from Jet Howard. We're going to need his playmaking. He's been up and down on defense so far. Like he's had some really good moments. He's had some really bad moments. We need to bring Jet Howard along very quickly here during this stretch. But felt that, we're on here. We might as well talk about that. It was breaking news today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kev, anything else? I think, we're right at about, 30-ish minutes here. Maybe we go ahead and wrap this one up.
Yeah, guys, come out to the watch party still. I know it's like, it's a downer moment for sure, but this team is still capable of beating Cleveland. And hey, if for nothing else, just come commiserate with your fellow Orlando Magic fans and just wallow in your pain and your pity and all that kind of stuff. No, but like come out to Watch Party Friday. It'll be fun. Big rematch, ESPN, will be a good time. But yeah, this is another bump in the road. This is another hiccup in the journey. But again, in the long run, this is not nothing, but it's not a huge deal, right? 4 to 6 weeks in this grand scheme that we keep talking about of years down the road, being a finals contender. It's not devastating to that end, but obviously right now it sucks, but we're going to get through it and see how the team responds.
And in regards to Friday night, against the Cavs, like, it's the NBA. Anything can happen on any given night. So it's not like, we don't have a chance to beat Cleveland or anything close to that. And hey, we've got our group night coming up on December 19th. That's right in line with 6 weeks from now, where, if you're one of the first 100 people to purchase tickets to that game, you also get the opportunity to come down and watch the pregame warmups with us before the game. So if you want to come out to that game, you can head over to fevo-enterprise.com/event/sixthman65. So that's fevo-enterprise.com/event/sixthman65. And as we are recording this, close to 11 o'clock Thursday night, we've already had 78 tickets sold. So that means there's 22 tickets left for that pregame availability. But if you miss out on that, in total, we still have about 91 tickets available. So trying to fill that as best we can, make that an awesome atmosphere. Really looking forward to that. But this is going to do it for this emergency podcast. We just wanted to get on here and vent, and we know that a lot of you are going to want to do the same. So hopefully this was helpful. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to the Six Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See you.